Close your eyes. Let the world outside fade into a distant memory. We are not just traveling through distance, we are traveling through the very fabric of time. Before the mountains, before the oceans, before even the first breath of wind, there was only silence. Imagine a darkness that isn't cold, but peaceful. A void waiting to be filled with the wonders of creation. 4.5 billion years ago, our Earth was a swirling cloud of stardust and fire. It was a chaotic dance of elements, a violent beginning for such a serene planet. But even then, in the heart of that fire, the foundation of the Alps was being prepared. Every grain of sand, every molecule of rock that forms the peaks today, was forged in the hearts of dying stars. You are made of that same stardust. As you lie here, feel your connection to the earth. You are not a visitor, you are a part of this ancient, unfolding story. Slowly, the fire began to cool. The Earth's crust started to harden, like a shell forming over a precious secret. Rain fell for thousands of years, a rhythmic, relentless downpour that filled the lowlands and created the first oceans. The atmosphere was thick and heavy, a blanket of mist that wrapped the world in a quiet, humid embrace. In this era, there were no continents as we know them. There were only vast, lonely islands drifting in a global sea. The space where the Alps stand today was nothing more than a quiet patch of blue water. But deep beneath that water, the Earth's inner heat was restless. The tectonic plates, the massive puzzles of our world, were beginning their slow, majestic migration. Feel the scale of this time. A human life is but a heartbeat in the eyes of a mountain. We are entering a realm where 1,000 years is just a moment. Breathe in that vastness. Let the weight of time ground you, making your body feel heavy, relaxed, and safe. The world aged. Millions of years passed like leaves falling in a silent forest. We find ourselves now floating in the Tethys Ocean, the ancient cradle of the Alps. The water here is warm, crystalline, and infinitely deep. Listen to the imagined sound of the deep sea. It is a world of pressure and peace. Sunlight filters down from the surface in long, shimmering rays of turquoise and gold, but it never quite reaches the bottom. Down here, on the ocean floor, is where the true work begins. For millions of years, a gentle rain of sediment drifted downward. Tiny shells of prehistoric creatures, fine grains of quartz, and minerals washed from distant shores settled layer by layer. This was a slow, beautiful accumulation. 1 millimeter every 100 years. A quiet, patient building of a future giant. Think of these layers as blankets being placed over the earth. One over the other. Soft, heavy, and warm. As you lie in your bed, feel the layers of your own comfort. Your sheets, your blankets, the stillness of your room. You are resting on the accumulated peace of your day, just as the Alps once rested as soft sand on the floor of a forgotten sea. Deep below this sand, the Earth's mantle was pulsing. The African plate and the European plate were like two giants reaching out for one another across the void. They weren't moving fast, they were moving with the patience of the stars. They were destined to meet, to clash, and to create something that would touch the sky. But for now, they were simply drifting through the blue silence. As the eons passed, the Tethys Ocean became a vast archive of Earth's history. The layers of sediment on the ocean floor grew thicker and heavier. Imagine the immense weight of miles of water pressing down on these sands. Under this incredible pressure, the soft grains began to transform. Sand turned into stone, tiny shells turned into limestone. The floor of the sea was becoming a solid, sturdy foundation. This transformation happened in absolute darkness. There was no sun to mark the days, no seasons to mark the years. There was only the steady, unchanging pulse of the planet. As you listen, try to imagine that same stillness within yourself. A place where time doesn't matter, where the world above doesn't exist. You are becoming solid in your relaxation, grounded and unshakable. Deep beneath this limestone floor, the tectonic plates were growing restless. The African plate, a massive continent of rock and heat, continued its northward crawl. It was a movement so slow that no eye could have seen it, yet it carried the energy of 1,000 storms. Every inch it gained was a victory of patience. The gap between the continents was closing, and the silent blue world of the Tethys was about to face its greatest change. The first sign of the great change wasn't a roar, but a whisper. Deep in the crust of the earth, the rocks began to groan. The leading edges of the continents were starting to feel each other's presence. The water of the Tethys began to shallow as the ocean floor was slowly, ever so slowly, nudged upward. Imagine the first time a piece of the ocean floor broke the surface. A small, lonely island appearing in the middle of a vast blue horizon. It was the first messenger of the Alps. The sun, which had been a distant stranger to these rocks for millions of years, now warmed them for the first time. The salt dried on the stone, leaving white crystals that sparkled like diamonds in the ancient light. But this was just the beginning. The pressure was building. It wasn't a violent pressure, but a persistent, gravitational force. It's the same way your body settles into your mattress, slowly, completely, until there is no space left between you and the ground. The continents were embracing, and in that embrace, the very shape of the world was being rewritten. Now, the Tethys Ocean was no longer a vast sea, but a series of shrinking lagoons and narrow channels. The African giant was pressing firmly against the European heartland. Because the rocks were warm from the Earth's inner heat, they didn't just break, they began to fold. Imagine taking a thick, soft rug and pushing it across a floor until it ripples. This is what was happening to the crust of the Earth. Devesa correctasita bakalari, kilometrala suzun luktaki kivrimla halind bukaluyordu. The rocks were dancing in slow motion. What was once the flat floor of the sea was now becoming a series of rolling hills and ridges, rising higher with every passing millennium. This is the patience of deep time. The Earth does not rush its masterpieces. It takes its time to fold every valley, to curve every slope. As you breathe, feel your own breath folding and unfolding within you. A natural, rhythmic cycle that requires no effort. You are moving with the planet. You are rising and falling with the ancient stone. The water finally retreated. The Tethys Ocean was gone, leaving behind salt flats and drying mud that would eventually become the fertile valleys of Europe. But the pressure did not stop. With the water gone, the continents began to climb over one another. This was the birth of the high peaks. The rocks that had spent 200 million years in the dark, cold depths were now being thrust into the thin, cold air of the upper atmosphere. The higher they rose, the colder the air became. The first clouds began to snag on the jagged new summits. The first lightning strikes danced across the virgin stone. The Alps were no longer a dream of the sea, they were a reality of the sky. They were young, jagged, and fierce. They stood as a barrier to the winds, forcing the air to rise and cool, creating their own weather, their own kingdom. Feel the coolness of that high-altitude air in your mind. It is fresh, pure, and carries the scent of the beginning of the world. As soon as the mountains rose, the elements began to challenge them. The sky, which had once seen only flat ocean, now faced these towering giants. Great storms began to gather. Heavy rains lashed the new slopes, carving the first tiny streams into the rock. Water is the sculptor of the mountains. Every droplet that fell carried a tiny grain of stone away, starting the long process of shaping the jagged peaks into the beautiful forms we see today. This wasn't a destruction, but a refinement. The mountains were being polished. The debris from the summits flowed down into the valleys, creating the first soils where life would eventually take root. Listen to the rain in your mind. A soft, steady patter against the ancient limestone. It is a cleansing sound. It washes away the dust of the ages. As you listen, let the imaginary rain wash away your thoughts, leaving only the cool, solid presence of the mountains. You are part of this landscape. You are as permanent as the stone, and as fluid as the water. As the Alps reached their majestic height, the Earth's climate began a slow, rhythmic cooling. The warm, tropical winds of the past were replaced by a sharp, crystalline breeze from the north. This was the arrival of the first great winter. It was not a season that lasted months, but a cycle that lasted thousands of years. Imagine the first snowflake ever to fall on a virgin Alpine peak. A single, perfect crystal of ice, landing silently on the dark, sun-warmed stone. It didn't melt. It was joined by another, and then billions more, until the dark grey ridges were transformed into a world of blinding white. The mountains were putting on their eternal robes. This snow began to pack down, layer by layer, becoming heavier and denser, turning into blue, ancient ice. The silence of the snow is a special kind of silence. It absorbs all sound, leaving only the rhythm of your own heart. Under the immense weight of the accumulating snow, the ice began to behave like a slow-moving liquid. These were the glacier, massive, blue-tinted rivers of glass that began to flow down from the summits. They didn't move fast, they moved with the patience of the stone itself. Perhaps a few inches a day, a few feet a year. Imagine the sound of a glacier moving. It is a low, subterranean groan, a deep vibration that you feel in your bones rather than hear with your ears. As these icy giants moved, they acted as the Earth's most powerful chisels. They ground down the jagged rock, smoothing the floors of the valleys and plowing through anything in their path. The weight was so great that it turned solid rock into fine powder, the glacial flour that gives Alpine lakes their magical turquoise color today. You are like that ice now, heavy, calm, and moving slowly toward a state of total rest. Deep inside the growing mountain range, in the dark spaces between the folded layers of stone, a hidden magic was happening. Water, rich with minerals, seeped through tiny cracks and dripped into secret caverns. Here, protected from the wind and the ice, nature was growing its jewels. In the absolute darkness, giant crystals of quartz and amethyst began to grow. One atom at a time, forming perfect geometric shapes that shimmered with an inner light. These caves are the quietest places on Earth. No wind reaches them, no sound of the surface world penetrates their thick stone walls. Imagine yourself inside one of these crystal cathedrals. The walls are cool and glowing. You are safe, deep within the earth, surrounded by beauty that no one else can see. Here, in the heart of the mountain, there is only peace. As the ice ebbed and flowed through the centuries, life began to find a way into this high-altitude kingdom. Tiny seeds, carried by the wind, found purchase in the mineral-rich dust left behind by the glacier. The first hardy mosses and lichens began to color the gray stone with shades of emerald and rust. Then came the giant of the animal world. The ibex, with its magnificent curved horns, learned to dance across the sheer cliffs where no predator could follow. The golden eagle soared on the thermals, its keen eyes watching the shifting shadows of the peaks. These creatures didn't fight the mountains, they became a part of them. They moved with the seasons, sleeping in the hidden ledges when the storms blew, and basking in the high-altitude sun when the clouds parted. Life was adapting to the rhythm of the stone, finding a home in the cradle of the heights. The Alps were no longer a chaotic collision of continents, they had become a living, breathing ecosystem. A grand symphony of seasons began to play across the landscape. In the spring, the sound of 1,000 waterfalls echoed through the valleys as the snow melted, feeding the rivers that would flow across the entire continent. In the summer, the high meadows erupted in a carpet of wildflowers, gentians and edelweiss, drinking in the intense mountain sun. In the autumn, the air turned crisp and golden, the larch trees turning to fire before dropping their needles. And finally, the winter would return, wrapping the world back in its silent, white blanket. This cycle has repeated hundreds of thousands of times, a steady heartbeat that reminds us that everything has its time. As you drift closer to sleep, feel your own cycles, the rise and fall of your chest, the steady beat of your heart, perfectly in tune with the rhythm of the mountains. For millions of years, the Alps knew only the sound of the wind, the cry of the eagle, and the slow groan of ice. But then, a new sound echoed through the lower valleys, the soft crunch of footsteps on the forest floor. The first humans had arrived. These were not conquerors, they were wanderers, awestruck by the towering giants of stone that seemed to hold up the very sky. Imagine standing at the edge of a deep alpine forest, looking up at a summit that no human had ever named. To these early ancestors, the mountains were not just rocks, they were the homes of gods and spirits. They watched the peaks disappear into the clouds and believed they were witnessing the gateway to another world. As you lie in the safety of your room, try to channel that same sense of wonder. You are a small but precious part of a vast, mysterious universe. The mountains have watched over humanity since our very beginning, standing as silent guardians of our earliest dreams. As the sun dipped below the jagged horizon, these early mountain dwellers sought refuge in the caves, the same limestone cradles that were formed at the bottom of the Tethys Ocean eons ago. Inside, they lit small fires. The orange glow danced on the damp cave walls, casting long, flickering shadows that looked like the spirits of the mountains themselves. Listen to the crackle of that ancient fire in your mind. It is a warm, rhythmic sound that brings a sense of deep security. Outside, the mountain wind howls, and the temperature drops far below freezing. But inside the heart of the stone, there is warmth. There is community. They shared stories of the great white bears and the spirits of the storms. These caves were the first bedrooms of the Alps, places where humans first learned to feel safe in the shadow of the giants. Feel that same warmth spreading through your body now. The world outside may be vast and cold, but here you are protected. High up on the mountain passes, where the air is thin and the snow never melts, time has a way of standing perfectly still. Thousands of years ago, a traveler climbed these heights, carrying his copper axe and his dreams. We know him as Otzi, the Ice Man. In the middle of a great storm, he lay down in a rocky hollow and fell into a sleep that would last for 5,000 years. Think of the absolute peace of his rest. Encased in the crystal blue heart of a glacier, he was preserved exactly as he was. The world changed around him, empires rose and fell, forests grew and withered, but in his icy chamber there was only silence. He became one with the mountain, a part of the deep time he traveled through. His story reminds us that sleep is a sacred bridge between the past and the future. Like the Ice Man, let yourself be preserved in this moment of perfect stillness. The mountain is holding you. Time is pausing just for you. Sometimes, the peace of the Alps is broken by the magnificent drama of a mountain storm. These are not storms to be feared, but to be admired from the safety of a shelter. Deep, rolling thunder echoes through the canyons, sounding like the mountains are talking to one another in a language of bass and vibration. The rain turns into a heavy, wet snow that blankets the world in a thick layer of white noise. This sound is the ultimate lullaby. It drowns out the trivial worries of the world, leaving only the raw, powerful voice of nature. Imagine the heavy clouds wrapping around the peaks like a thick, grey wool blanket. Everything is being tucked in. The trees bow their heads under the weight of the snow. The animals huddle in their burrows. The entire mountain range is preparing for a long, deep rest. Let the sound of the distant thunder ground you, making your bed feel like the most secure place on earth. What do the mountains think as they watch us? To a mountain, a human life is like a single flash of lightning in a summer night, bright, brief, and then gone. This perspective is a gift. It tells us that our worries, our schedules, and our anxieties are fleeting. They are just tiny ripples on the surface of a deep, ancient ocean. The mountains teach us the wisdom of the stone, the power of simply being. A mountain doesn't try to be anything, it doesn't hurry to grow, it doesn't worry about the weather. It simply stands. It endures. It accepts the sun and the snow with the same quiet grace. As you move closer to sleep, try to adopt the wisdom of the Alps. Release the need to do, to plan, or to fix. For this hour, you are the mountain. You are ancient, you are strong, and you are perfectly at peace with the passing of time. Hidden within the complex folds of the Alps are valleys that the sun rarely touches. These are the secret gardens of the mountains, places where time seems to have pooled like water. In these valleys, a thick, silvery mist often clings to the ground, moving like a slow-motion tide between the ancient pines. Imagine walking through this mist. It feels cool and damp against your skin, like a gentle breath from the earth itself. The ground beneath your feet is a soft carpet of moss and fallen needles, absorbing every sound of your movement. Here, the silence is so profound that you can almost hear the trees breathing. They grow slowly here, their roots intertwining with the bedrock, drawing strength from the minerals formed millions of years ago. As you drift deeper into sleep, imagine your own roots growing down into the soft, quiet earth of your bed, anchoring you in a place of absolute safety and stillness. The Alps are not just made of stone, they are a living reservoir of life-giving water. Deep inside the mountain's heart, there is a vast network of secret veins, underground rivers and hidden chambers filled with water so pure it hasn't seen the light of day for centuries. Listen to the imagined sound of this water. It's a rhythmic drip, 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 echoing in a limestone cathedral deep beneath the peaks. These waters travel through the darkness, filtered by layers of ancient rock, gathering the essence of the mountain. They flow in a slow, steady pulse, a liquid heartbeat that sustains the entire continent below. This internal flow is calm and constant. Feel the fluid movement within your own body, the steady circulation of your blood, the rhythmic flow of your breath. You are a vessel of life, just like the mountain, and your internal world is just as peaceful and vast. When darkness falls over the high meadows, a different kind of life awakens. The scent of the Alps changes at night. The intense sun of the day gives way to the cool, crisp fragrance of dampened earth, wild thyme, and the resinous sweetness of the larch trees. In your mind, take a deep, slow breath of this mountain air. It is cold, filling your lungs with a sense of purity and clarity. In the moonlight, the pale petals of the edelweiss glow like fallen stars against the dark crags. These flowers are the symbols of endurance, thriving in the harshest conditions, yet remaining delicate and beautiful. They don't struggle to grow, they simply open themselves to the moonlight. Let yourself be like the night flowers of the Alps. Open your mind to the quiet beauty of the dark, and let the scent of the pine forests carry you into a dreamless, restorative sleep. The moon has a special relationship with the Alps. When it rises over the jagged ridges, it transforms the world into a kingdom of silver and shadow. The snow-covered summits catch the light, reflecting it back into the sky until the entire landscape seems to glow from within. Imagine looking out over a vast, frozen lake at the foot of a glacier. The surface is a perfect mirror, reflecting the moon's path across the sky. There isn't a single ripple. The mountains stand on either side, their long shadows stretching across the ice like dark velvet. This is the peak of tranquility. The world is bathed in a soft, silver light that smooths away all the edges and worries of the day. Your mind is like that still lake, calm, reflective, and undisturbed. The silver light of the moon is washing over you now, bringing a sense of coolness and quietude to every part of your being. The higher you climb in the Alps, the closer you feel to the stars. At these altitudes, the atmosphere is so thin and clear that the Milky Way appears as a brilliant, glowing river of light, flowing directly over the peaks. The mountains act as a bridge between the Earth and the cosmos. To the stone, the stars are old friends. They have watched each other for billions of years. The constellations shift slowly over the summits, marking the passage of the great eras. As you look up at this infinite sky in your mind, feel the grand perspective of deep time once again. Your life, your day, your current moment, they are all part of this magnificent, starlit tapestry. There is a great order to the universe, and you are exactly where you need to be. The stars are watching over the mountains, and the mountains are watching over you. Sleep now, under the gaze of a billion ancient lights. Do the mountains dream? When the world is tucked under its blanket of stars and the wind is just a faint sigh in the valleys, the stone remembers. In its deep, mineral subconscious, the mountain dreams of the Tethys Ocean. It remembers the feeling of being soft sand, the weight of the warm blue water, and the rhythmic swaying of ancient seaweed. In the mountain's dream, the peaks melt back into the sea. The jagged edges become smooth waves. This is the beauty of deep time. Nothing is permanent, and everything is connected. As you begin to dream, let your own memories fluidly shift. Let the boundaries of your day dissolve. You are no longer defined by your tasks or your name. You are a part of the mountain's dream, a part of the water's memory. Flowing, shifting, and returning to a state of primal peace. Silence in the Alps is not the absence of sound, it is a presence in itself. It is a thick, velvet texture that fills the canyons and wraps around the peaks. It is a language that the soul understands without words. When you stop listening for the world, you begin to hear the silence. It is the sound of a single snowflake settling on a branch. It is the sound of the earth cooling after the sun has gone. It is the sound of time passing, unnoticed and unhurried. Listen to that silence now. It is within you just as much as it is around the mountains. It is a vast, empty space where you can finally let go of everything. You don't need to hold on anymore. The silence is strong enough to carry you. The history of the Alps is a circle. What rose from the sea will one day return to the sea, only to rise again in a different form, in a different eon. This is the comfort of the Earth's great cycles. Nothing is ever truly lost, it only changes its shape. As you stand on the threshold of sleep, feel the comfort of this eternal return. Your energy is returning to its source. Your mind is returning to its natural state of rest. Like the mountains waiting for the next great age, you are waiting for the renewal that only deep sleep can bring. You have traveled through millions of years tonight, and now you have arrived at the destination, the center of your own peace. The world you knew when you began this journey has disappeared. The mountains have swallowed the noise. The stars have outshone the worries. There is no tomorrow yet, and there is no yesterday. There is only the breath you are taking right now. With every breath, the mountain becomes a little more distant. The peaks are fading into a soft, grey mist. The stars are becoming tiny points of light that guide you into the deep, dark ocean of sleep. You are drifting away from the shore of wakefulness. The water is warm, the night is kind, and the journey is over. You have found the heart of deep time. Now, let the silence take the final word. The Alps are standing guard. The earth is breathing with you. The stars are watching. You are safe. You are loved by the ancient stone and the eternal sky. The journey is complete. The story has ended. Your rest begins. Deep, deep time. Sleep now. Sleep. Good night.